Welcome to the Nikki Speaks TV show, the Mental Health Series. Join me on this show as I interview mental health experts and business owners to share their perspectives. Let's explore grief, anxiety, and stress, relationship topics, divorce, adapting to life change, and women empowerment. Join me as we talk about and explore mental health together. This is Nikki Speaks TV. Hi guys, it's Nikki with Nikki Speaks TV. Thank you for joining me today with my special guest, Chris Howell from Chris Howell Communications. Well, welcome, Chris Howell. I'm so excited to have you at my studio, Nikki Speaks TV. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm so glad to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I love the place.
Thank you. Thank you. So as you know, I have started a series on mental health topics and interviewing entrepreneurs in the community that are just making an impact in a positive way, and then also have a story as well. So
Yes.
Thank you for joining me, and I want to just start out by asking you a few questions.
Okay.
Tell me about your story.
Okay. The question probably is, where do you want to start with my story? But I'll take you back a little bit, then we'll come fast forward.
Okay.
First of all, born and raised here in Dallas, Texas. This is home for me. We've only lived one other place before, and that was Bryan, Texas. Lived there for about a year, but then came back to Dallas.
Okay.
My wife and I, basically, we grew up together. We've been together since we were 14 years old.
Wow.
Had our first kid at 16 and our third by the time we were 18. So we've all really kind of grown up together. So now we're 47 and empty nesters and have a 11-year-old grandson. So we're living and loving life.
Your best life, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. But really, you would think that we would be smart and say, let's take this time to really just sit down somewhere. But once we got the kids out of the house, then we took on these other babies. And those are the businesses and other things that you spoke of. So, and giving back to the community. That's really what we've been doing. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. The fact that you guys have been together for so long and you started out younger and now you guys are, like you said, you have new babies, businesses. Tell me about those.
Yeah, we have Chris Howell Communications. That's a company. I was in the newsroom for 7 years as a radio news reporter. And like most journalists, when you come out of the newsroom, when the next best thing to do is to start your own communications firm. So we started that full time June of 2013, and we moved into an office downtown Dallas November 2013, and we've been there ever since. Thankfully, we were able to make it through the pandemic, maintain our office space, and continue to serve those clients who would allow us to serve them. Yeah.
What's your population that you serve usually?
I serve primarily it's nonprofits. It's maybe nonprofits or small or business organizations that are looking to share their story. Okay. And one of the things we do aside from public relations and marketing, we do a lot of video production because right now most folks assume that with social media they can do the public relations part themselves. Well, we know that's not true, but that's what most of them assume. So we help them with video marketing. We'll go out, we'll get the chance to hear their story and kind of get an understanding of who their client base is, and then we produce video material around those needs of helping them reach their client base to grow their business.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So that's the communications part. Tell me about the Chris Howell Foundation.
The foundation is, that's my heart. It's not that I don't love the communication side, but the foundation is something that we started in 2016. At the time, my wife and I looked at the fact that, of course, again, I had been on the radio for 7 years, had done some other things that had given me somewhat of a platform. So we thought, okay, how do you be responsible with the platform that you have and give back to the community? We looked at one of two things. My wife had lost her mother and sister, both to breast cancer. Oh, wow. I had lost my brother at 33 years of age to HIV. So we looked at how could we serve the community with one of those two initiatives? Right. And as we assessed it, we realized that Dallas, Fort Worth at that time was leading the state in new HIV infection rates. So we said, you know what? There's not enough being said about HIV. Again, in 2016, you weren't seeing it on the news. You weren't hearing about it anymore. So most folks assumed that the virus had went away. But of course, it was still an epidemic and still continues to be an epidemic. Even during this pandemic, we're still battling HIV cases. We started going around the community, educating the community on HIV and raising awareness and education regarding it. And as we did that, we saw, again, there were so many other needs in the community. So we then expanded that to overall health, wellness, and financial literacy. So that's what we do and had been doing prior to COVID. Once the pandemic hit, we then had to assess, okay, what do we do? Now we can't go all throughout the community with our health and wellness fairs like we had been doing. We thought we would play a role by assisting the community in getting PPE care packages. Again, the pandemic had just hit. No one had masks. Very few people had hand sanitizer, things of that nature. So we started putting these packages together. And in putting those packages together, we then learned that USDA had a food box program. Once we learned of their food box program, we thought that would be a great combination. We have PPE care packages that have hand sanitizer, mask, soap, hand soap. And then now we have these food boxes, anywhere from 40 to 50 pounds of food, enough food to feed a family of 4 for about 3 days.
Wow.
We combined those, and we did that for 11 months straight. For 11 months of the early in the pandemic, every Saturday, we were out in the community serving anywhere from 12 to 2,400 families, PPE care packages and boxes of food, just to make sure folks have what they need as they continue to navigate through the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what is your why? Why do you work so hard at what you do, you and your family, to be such an influence and impact in the community?
I know the importance of it. I was a recipient growing up in West Dallas, the last of 6 kids in a single parent home. I know the times when my mom would go and get in line similar to those food lines that we had for folks waiting on us to distribute food to them. I remember with her coming home with bags and boxes of food similar to those things that we handed out. So I grew up as a recipient of it in West Dallas. So I like the opportunity to be able to pay that forward. And I will say it this way. I think it does well for our community for folks to see folks who look like them doing that. I think it does one of two things, and not that I'm ever against anybody helping to serve our communities, because everyone needs to help out.
Right.
But I think it does, as a young black child, seeing black folks serving in the community, volunteering, giving in the community, it helps them to dispel the myth that we don't volunteer or we don't give. And so many times we would be asked that while we were out there. Folks would ask, well, what's the name of the church who's doing this? And we'd say, no, it's not a church, it's a foundation. Well, then who is Chris Howell? And they'd say, yeah. Oh, that's Chris Howell? And it was because, again, most of the time in our communities, we assume that it has to be a pastor or church who's doing it. Or if it is, it's someone who does not look like us, or it's someone who's deceased. And they waited until after the person was deceased and then started giving back to the community in that person's name for whatever reason.
Right.
So,
right. I'm sure you've heard a lot of stories, as you have gotten to meet people in the community. And what was your most memorable story that you've heard and the families that you've been able to help?
The most memorable one really is a woman who said she thought she would never, ever find herself in a food line. Her husband had passed away the year before. She had, been saving her money and trying to, make sure she had some things put away.
Right.
But when she saw the pandemic and didn't know how long it was going to last and how long we would be in this situation, she thought, I really need to go out and get some help. So, and that's what we found. Many times it wasn't folks who were always needed. These were folks who were trying to make ends meet, and they just needed some help to aid them along the way. And thankfully, we were able to do that. But yeah, she was a woman who had been widowed and just really thought, you know what, I'm good. I'm never going to need for anything. And then here comes this pandemic that rattles her world and shakes it up, and she finds herself in a food line.
Wow.
Yeah.
What words of wisdom or insight, help, assistance did you provide, or did your team provide for her?
It's always just letting folks know, you know what, this too shall pass.
Right.
Remembering that, again, we've all been through something in our life that may have challenged us, may have rattled our world, shaken us up a bit, but it's understanding that if we made it through that, we'll make it through this as well.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say your one thing, and I'm sure we've all gone through many things, but one thing that has happened to you that was pivotal in shaping your mental health?
I would say for me, it really was understanding the importance of sleep. Because I used to brag about the fact that, I only get 4 hours sleep, and that's all I need, because I could function.
Yeah.
At least I thought I was functioning very well. But then I began to I got on this journey where I was trying to lose weight, and I just couldn't lose the weight. And I was like, man, I'm doing all this working out, doing all these things, but I'm not losing weight. Why is it? So someone asked me, well, how are you sleeping? That's why I'm getting 4 hours sleep. That's all I need. And then when I began to evaluate that and do a little bit more research on that and understand it a little bit better, I understand now the importance of sleeping. So I now really force myself to get a lot more sleep, and I have found that I do function and operate a lot better than I thought I was doing and thought I was doing well.
Thought you were doing
but
good.
It's the importance of sleeping. That has been an eye-opening experience for me, because all of my life I've always had a challenge sleeping. So I just assumed that, I don't need sleep. And nothing could be further from the truth.
How many hours do you get?
Now I get at least 6 to 7 hours.
Okay.
And I used to think that was crazy. How am I going to get 6 or 7 hours? I don't need 6 or 7 hours. There was this crazy saying, and I probably shouldn't even quote it, but I did. I would say, sleep when I die.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like the craziest thing. And I would brag about it. But I really have come to learn the importance of sleeping. I've seen some improvement in terms of my workouts, things of that nature, but just the fact of getting sleep.
It's good for your mental health, your mental clarity. I have the Aura ring. Okay. No, this is not a commercial for Aura, but unless you guys are sending me a check. No, I'm just kidding. But But have you heard about the Oura ring?
I have not. I was going to ask you about it, but I didn't know how much you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, well, it monitors your sleep. Your sleep cycle is your HRV, and all of that.
So is it like tied to an app or something, or?
It's tied to an app, and you can charge it every night, or in the daytime, really.
Okay.
And then you can wear it, and then also your activity, it measures that as well. So I got it myself because I started doing that too. Is doing some research on how to optimize and really biohack.
Yeah, I mean, and I've got
anti-age and all that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we've got to do what we've got to do, right?
Now all of a sudden I want to learn.
But you know what? You ask about mental health, and really, I will tell you, it's shameful or not, but like I talked about with the sleep and bragging about sleep, I used to always, when I didn't think as much about mental health. I thought about, I always equated mental health with mental illness. And I said, well, if I don't have a mental illness, then I must be mentally healthy, right? Mm-hmm. That's not true.
Right.
I'm starting to learn that too. And so I guess now I do start thinking more about my mental health and what can I do to make sure that I'm preserving that. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that really set me on that path was seeing my sister-in-law go through dementia. And just understanding that, man, you can get to a point in life where you just, again,
lose your mental faculties.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think it starts with, again, like we always say, if you start working on those things when you are younger, there's a good chance you can offset some of that when you're older. No guarantees at all, but I mean, there's a good chance you could possibly offset some of that. So I really have tried to, as I'm working out, that's my hour and a half to zone out my time to myself. I've got my music, I'm walking, and it's just...
Yeah, I've watched you on social media. I said, oh, look at him, he's out there.
And I used to never walk my neighborhood.
I saw the $5 bill, by the way. And
that's $5.
I started to put on there, I was like, I need to borrow $5. I said, no, that's not that's not the time, Nikki.
I feel like that's God's tip to me to say, hey, man, keep going. I found $5 before, and then we just recently found that $5 that you saw, and then I found $20 before. I was like, wait, nobody's losing $100 bills anymore?
No, you're like, what's going on? I'll take the 5 until people catch up.
I will. But no, that's what I've done to try to really maintain my mental health is really just working out and really understanding the importance of it is where it starts, because understanding that it all starts with the mind.
Right. And I know you mentioned earlier about some significant losses that your family faced. Tell me about navigating that. How was that season when, especially, your brother as he, went through what he went through?
My brother's situation was one where he had suffered with the virus for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Early on when he got the virus, he told us that he'd been diagnosed. And, of course, we all rallied around him. I mean, this is, mid-'80s, early 80s. So we're all rallying around him and thinking, okay, we're going to be here for you. We're going to walk through this every step of the way with you because we're a pretty close family.
Right.
And we did that up until the point that he really started to show symptoms. And when he began to show symptoms, we then began to back up. Because, again, this is also at the time when ignorance is on high as it relates to HIV. I have 3 young kids that I'm raising. I'm thinking, man, I don't want to have my kids around him. They may contract the virus, or I may contract the virus and give it to my children.
Right.
So we didn't have him over for dinner and things of that nature. And that was painful. It was painful for us, but it was also extremely painful for him, even more so. So he then began to use drugs, things of that nature, that then maybe forced us to push him away even more, because now it was not just the virus, but it was also the taking of things of that nature, because he's using crack cocaine, things of that nature. So now it's, we can't have any of that around. And I guess that's what led us to say, when we took this on as an initiative to try to raise awareness, it was really to try to raise that awareness and education to make sure that no one else lose years on the life of their loved one through ignorance. Because I lost years on his latter years because of ignorance. Yes. When that was a time that he really needed me to rally around him the most. Again, he's my only brother. There's 6 of us, 2 boys, 4 girls. And I was the closest, so he really needed me the most at that time. And that was the time I was the furthest away. So we wanted to make sure that, again, particularly where we are now, with all the technology and all the advancements in HIV, there is absolutely no reason someone should have to suffer alone, particularly when they have a family that can rally around them at the time they need that support system. Right. So that's the biggest part of it. It's education, raising awareness that, hey, it's still out there. First of all, let's do what we can to protect yourself that you don't get HIV. If you're going to be sexually active, there's so many advancements in terms of the female condom and others that you can use to be safe. But even if you contract HIV, it doesn't have to be a death sentence, and it certainly does not have to be something that you have to go at alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it similar? I know it's not exactly the same, but, as far as the coronavirus and things we're dealing with that, as far as, vaccinated, unvaccinated, people not being able to see their families like they used to, do you see some commonalities there?
Oh, absolutely not. And for those reasons that I said a moment ago, HIV now, there is no way for you to contract HIV from a person who's HIV positive unless you're sexually active with that person without using the protection, things of that nature. And even now, there are things where an HIV positive person, if they're doing their medication, getting their treatment the way that they should be, they could fall into what they call an undetected status. And an undetected status can many times cause them to not be able to transmit it. Now, of course, you don't want to take those chances, but there are medications such as PrEP and others which you could use if you know you're engaging with a HIV positive person that again stops the transmission or greatly decreases the chances of transmission. Because of course we all have to say nothing is guaranteed.
Absolutely.
But no, I wouldn't compare the two because coronavirus is extremely contagious, whereas HIV is not contagious. That was the thing we used to think. If I sat in a room with someone who's HIV, if I ate off a fork, or if I sat on the toilet seat, all those things.
So much education.
And none of that is true. Okay. So that's what we try to work to educate. Hello, Chris Howell here, guest on Nikki Speaks TV, and I want to invite you to become a partner with the Chris Howell Foundation. Go to chrishowellfoundation.org. Since 2016, the Chris Howell Foundation has been working in both Dallas and Tarrant County to really inform the community regarding health, wellness, and financial literacy. And throughout this pandemic, we've served some 100,000 families over 3 million pounds of food to really make sure that folks have what they need as the essential items as we continue to navigate throughout this pandemic. So I would love for you to become a partner with us at chrishowellfoundation.org. That's chrishowellfoundation.org.
Okay,
your drink looks different than mine.
Mine
I'm
is
drinking water. What are you drinking?
This is let me see my juice here. Clean juice, cold pressed organic juice.
Okay, I thought you were having a Bloody Mary or something. I'm like, oh, Joe just gave me water.
No, that's not the case. That's not the case. So you are a business coach. Tell me how you could help someone like me.
Absolutely. Well, folks come to me primarily, first of all, being an entrepreneur myself now, right at full time, some 9 years. I've certainly bumped my head enough times and I've learned enough to be able to help those who are aspiring to go into business for themselves, whether it's setting up your actual formation of your business or whether it's actually looking at your business with an objective view to determine what you go about in terms of your best marketing strategy. So they either come to me for those things or they come to me for communications coaching. Because again, just knowing my background, they feel like, well, maybe there's something you can help me to do in terms of public speaking, or whether it's going to actually be doing a podcast or something, what we're doing here today. They always come to me for those things. And that's what we walk them through. In fact, we just got a young man now who we're going to be doing executive coaching with him as well as media training.
Awesome. So tell me, or tell the audience, as far as speaking, what are your tips?
My tips, first of all, just be yourself. Be yourself. And just like when we sit down here to have a conversation, you and I are just having a conversation. The mics and cameras, all that stuff just happens to be here. But it's really you and I just having a conversation. Even when on social media, I notice most people will get on social media, hey, y'all, and hey, y'all. I always tell people, really remember with social media, you're really only talking to one person. It's just like radio. In radio, you're trained to understand that you're really talking to one person. Because generally, if I'm on social media, I'm the only person looking at my phone at that time. So when you address me and you address me as, hey, I just wanted to jump on and tell you that today's going to be a great day. You know what? I take that more internally. But if you jump on and say, hey, y'all, when you say y'all, my attention is not as in tune as it would be if you just jumped on and just said, hey. So
I say, hey, guys.
Well, you know what? Because
don't say that anymore.
And in television and radio, a little bit different. You got to remember, I'm more trained more in radio.
No, I want to do. You're successful. I want to do it your way.
But it is the same thing with television in terms of podcasts, because most of the time they are being consumed via phone. Even if it's being consumed via television now, most of the time it's not 3 or 4 people sitting around the television. It's actually, I'm in this room, my wife is in that room, my son is over in another room, and all that. Everybody's watching their own television. So typically it's still only one person. So I like to try to engage one-on-one as much as possible. That's my first tip.
How do you get out of your head? You
don't.
Okay.
You don't. You're always.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I think, first of all, is understanding that you're always going to do it. You're always going to critique yourself. But I think you become comfortable with the fact that, you know what, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to slip up. I'm going to make some mistakes. But you know what, if I don't focus on it as much, then I probably won't make as many mistakes. But I tend to make more mistakes when I sit down and I really just focus on it so much. It used to be I would come and I would do an interview like this and I'd walk out of here and I'm like, oh, I should have said that. I should have said that. And I'd beat myself up. But you know what?
I did the best I could.
You do the best you can.
Yeah.
And you know what? You come into a situation, first of all, you ask the tip. First of all, do as much research as you can. Try and understand as best you can what the information is, or what the information is you need to know, what the environment is that you're walking into, and then you do the best preparation that you can, and then you let it go.
I love that. I love that. Well, I was on your Instagram,
Okay.
and there was a post you did that I was really, it really inspired me. I wanted to share it.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me get to it real quick.
See, when you talk about going in your head, I'm like, wait, what post? What did Now I have to just wait and see.
You were speaking at the Westin, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And so your post says, you are worthy, you are beautiful, you're capable. It's so easy to get down on yourself because of comparisons or wondering why your last venture, meeting, post, email, or event didn't go as well as you had planned. It's tempting to give up altogether, but don't. Everyone goes through highs and lows, whether you're an entrepreneur or at a corporate job. But when everything doesn't go exactly as you had planned, don't let this change what you think about yourself. You've accomplished so much, even in this past year. You've grown so much. Don't let a slight hiccup get you down. You are worthy.
Yeah.
And I speak to that for us, for
Absolutely.
the audience. I love what you said there.
Absolutely. It goes back to like what I said a moment ago about this interview. You know, if something was to happen and I felt like maybe it didn't go as well as it should have went, I'll walk out and be like, oh, man, you're such a screw up. What are you thinking, man? You should have done that. No, this is not the total sum of my life.
That inner critic that we all have.
This is one moment in time.
This one, yeah.
You know, I've got another 12 hours left in this day.
Yeah,
you know?
as Whitney said, one moment in time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So that post is really just speaking to the fact that, folks, again, you may have a moment or situation that something may not go as well as you had planned, but understand that's not the total sum of who you are. You know, you're going to have more great days than you're going to have bad days. You may have a few more bad moments, but you know what? That's not the sum of who you are. And so many times I think what we do is we take those bad moments and we just sum it up to
Amplify them.
That's who I am. I'm just, I can't get it right. You know, I've tried this business. You say I've tried this business and it's not working, so I'm going to give it up. All you've done is done 4 or 5 posts on Facebook and nobody responded. That's not the sum of your business.
Right.
You can do a billboard. You could, and what is his name? Drake just showed us the significance of billboards, and they still exist. You could do, a billboard on the side of a bus. Right. There's so many other ways to market your business.
Absolutely.
But so many times we'll compare ourselves on social media, and we'll see that someone else got 5,000 likes on a thing that somebody similar that we did, and maybe we only got 2.
Right.
You know what?
No
That's
comparison.
Not the sum of who you are. Yeah. So I think we really have fallen into that trap. And I think we've talked about it prior to COVID, but I think even more so since COVID because we spend more time on social media probably because we're isolated and things of that nature. I think we really have to get out of our head and stop summing ourselves up based on, like you said, I love what you said, a moment in time.
Yeah. It's not about that, but sometimes we feel like that. So out of your years being married and, you know, with your wife, I'm sure you had ups and downs and things like that. How did you, what was your why? What kept you married? What kept you working, you know, to build a family and a business, a legacy, all those things?
The biggest thing is, I guess, realizing that we had made a commitment. And it's not easy to always keep that commitment. Trust me.
Did you realize that at 16 or did that come later?
That came later.
I was going to say, later. You were smart from the beginning.
No, it came later, and it came through many trials and errors. And it came, here's what I tell people all the time. There were many times that both of us wanted to walk away from our relationship. I just thank God neither one of us wanted to walk away at the same time. Or he didn't allow us both to want to walk away at the same time. Because there's been moments
powerful.
Where,
That's a powerful
where she's
statement.
like, hey, I'm done with this. There's been times I'm done with this. I mean, we got together at 14.
Right.
At 14 years old, you don't know who you are.
Right.
So you're learning.
14, that's right.
Yeah, you're learning who you are. Well, we had our first kid at 16, but we got together at 14. But you're learning who you are. And then let alone at 16 years old, now you bring in the responsibility of being a father or being a mother.
Right.
And you're still trying to go to junior high school.
Right. So, you're still trying to study for social studies class.
So, it got to the point, even in 9th grade, I dropped out of school. I had to drop out of school because it was a point where you got this young family now here. You got 3 kids, a wife, and you got your own apartment. You're trying to take care of these. Are you going to still go to school?
Wow.
I had to drop out of school and get a full-time job. I was offered a full-time job opportunity with Blockbuster Video, and I took that job. And I worked like a dog in that job until the time I left there. I was 23 years old, and I was the youngest district manager they had ever had. But it was, again, making a commitment that we're going to work through this. And thankfully, God just allowed us to be able to keep the commitment.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not easy. Yeah. And I never try to make it sound like it's totally easy for everyone.
Right.
It worked for us.
Right.
And again, it was just understanding that we're not going to be going, if we get into a situation to where we can't communicate, you're going to not communicate with me. I'm not going to communicate with you, but you're not going to go to your dad's house and I'm not going to go to my mom's house and we're going to do that.
We're going to figure it out.
Under the same roof and we're going to figure it out.
That's good that you guys had that, same belief system.
Absolutely.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
And I like what you said, because the fact that you guys didn't want to do it at the same time, you know, definitely was a help.
It always left someone fighting for the relationship.
Yeah.
And I think as long as there's someone continuing to fight for the relationship, if indeed you really do want to be together, you're going to find a way to make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it would help marriage couples or what have you, just to know that, okay, if this person, my mate, is upset and wanting to leave, then even if I want to, let me try harder to fight for it. So somebody has to compromise.
Absolutely. When you see someone who's saying, first of all, when you spent that amount of time together, you know there's a reason why you love the person. Right. And you come to grow to love them even more. You understand that you're probably going through a phase. You're probably, and I tell people this all the time, understand that you're not going to always be in love. Right. There are times when we have fallen out of love with each other, but that don't mean that you walk away just because you don't feel like you're in love. I didn't feel like going to work, but I still have to get up and go to work because I have a commitment. You feel
like changing diapers, right? I have kids. I know
kids sometimes, but they were my commitment to take care of them.
Right.
But it's not based on a feeling. We understood that it was a fact, and we had made a commitment to each other. And thankfully, we just got up every day and put one foot in front of the other and attempted to make it work every way we can. And
it's working.
It's worked out.
It's working, yeah.
And now it's even better because, again, you don't have – sometimes when you're together early on, it's because you have all of the responsibilities together. You got the kids and you've got all these other things. Now it's no kids. It's just you're just there because that's where you want to be. And that's who you want to do life with.
That's so awesome. So awesome.
And it doesn't mean that we don't have, we still have our situations now. Where some days it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to talk to you for a few hours.
Yeah.
You go over there, I'm going to go over here,
Have your separate sides of the room.
And then you come back and say, well, what do you want for dinner?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you want? And then that starts the conversation and you work it out.
Right. You got to eat. Yeah. You got to eat. So
you can act like you're mad if you want to.
Right.
I'm getting something to eat.
Right. So I love that because I feel like, the things that you've shared will really help some married couples, persevere for sure.
Good.
And you guys are an example. Now,
you got to not give up so easy.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to what we said. And I'm not advocating at all staying in an abusive relationship, whether it's physical or verbal. But I am saying if there is something in there worth fighting for, don't walk away from it so easily.
Right.
Understand we all go through a phase, and we've been through a time in the last couple of years, man, with this pandemic that put us all in a different mind space.
Yeah, a lot of couples went through.
Yeah.
I counseled some of them.
and then later you may realize, man, that was a mistake, because sometimes we'll make a permanent decision based on a temporary inconvenience. And it's like, man, if I had thought about that a little bit more,
right.
If I had really tried to understand what it was the other person is going through, you may be fine. Like there are many times I'm okay. I'm like, man, I'm going to keep moving. But I have to understand my wife is built differently.
Absolutely.
She needs a different sense of security than I need.
Yes.
So it's my job to make sure that she feels secure and that the world is not going to crave in around us because we're in the middle of a pandemic. And we're two entrepreneurs out here trying to figure out where
trying
the
to
next
eat,
contract
make
is
sure you
coming
eat.
from. Yeah. So,
yeah. But sometimes I feel like, people don't come to that conclusion and that realization until the divorce is over,
Here's what I like to say. That's still not too late. So many times we feel like, oh man, we've gotten a divorce and we've told all of our friends, that's it, I'm done with them. Man, if you still love that person, even after the papers are done, go back and get that person.
Yeah.
If that's who you feel like you are to spend your life with,
it's possible.
That's just what I feel
possible.
about it. Yeah, because I've seen people who have talked about divorce, and then after they talk about that person, you could see it in their eyes. They really still long to be with that person. Now, it may be that, it's not supposed to be, but if there's anything in you and anything in them that says that it could be, I've also seen people remarry. So it doesn't have to be the
never
divorce
say
system.
never, right?
Yeah.
Never say never.
Yeah, just work through what you need to work through, allow them to work through what they need to work through, and if there's a way to make it work together, then do so.
Inception, Texas is coming to Dallas, you guys, from Los Angeles to Texas. That's right. Inception is the first mental health gym founded by CEO David McCullough and Tina McCullough from Farmington Hills, Michigan. I opened a franchise in Los Angeles a couple years ago, and when the pandemic hit, I came back to Texas, and now I'm so excited to open again in the future. I would love your support. Click the link below to join our email list and to stay connected for investment opportunities. So tell me, what's next for you? What do you see for yourself? I know you have so much that you're doing, right now. Do you see even more than this?
Well, I see a lot. I see, first of all, as it relates to the Chris Howell Foundation, we're excited about the fact that we just recently partnered with Tarrant County Public Health. And one of the things we're going to be doing there is we're going to be educating as much as we can to give the most up-to-date and most accurate information as it relates to COVID-19 vaccines. I believe, and we're not trying to advocate whether folks get the vaccine one way or the other, but we do want to make sure folks have the best information to allow them to make the best decision for themselves.
Right.
Because I believe a lot of folks are making the decisions that they're making to choose not to get it or what have you based on misinformation. Right. And there has been a lot of it, from the CDC on down. Right. So we want to try to do as best we can, rally some of the healthcare professionals and provide a platform for them to be able to come and share that information with the Black and brown communities to make sure that we're putting out the best stuff to allow folks. Because at some point, even just hearing the president talk yesterday, it's going to become extremely difficult if you don't have the vaccine. Right. Not only the threat of the virus itself, which is a huge threat, but also just the inconveniences and things that many folks are going to be able to face with without having it. So we want to make sure we provide folks the opportunity to make the best decision for themselves.
That's awesome.
So we're excited about that. We're excited about what we're doing with Chris Howell Communications. We're currently working on a documentary of the first Black school teacher in Hammond, Indiana. We had been working on it prior to COVID, and we're just about done with it. And we want to go back to Hammond and be able to present that to that community and show it to them.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Well, I love what you do. It's so professional because I know you did the voice conference for me, which I need to do another one.
Yeah.
We need to meet after this to have a conference.
I guess. I don't know,
Well, outdoors somewhere. We can find a park or something, right? Space the chairs out. But yeah. So, that's awesome that you're doing that. Yeah. What about your coaching? Do you see it progressing further than?
I try to not coach any more than about 5 people at a time. Okay. Because I really want to be able to do it with everything else that I have going on. I still want to really be able to devote, whether that's 3 to 4 calls per week, per month, not week.
I was like, okay, you're going to be busy.
No.
Don't call him.
No, I really want to be able to devote time because I understand the importance of a coach. I've had coaches in my life, and I understand, and coaches have really helped me to get to where I am. So I understand the importance of it, and not only the time that we spend together on the line, but the work that I need to be doing offline to make sure that I'm really preparing the best material for each person who's got their own journey that they're seeking after. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a payment plan, or do you have a?
I do, and it's not very expensive. It's not. Sometimes I think, man, am I just gonna be, people sign the contract?
Let me get in right away.
Is it too cheap? What's the deal here?
It's like all these people are calling me. I don't understand.
They're signing the contract too quick. They're not even thinking about it. Like, let me sign. Here's a check. But I make it affordable because, again, that's the other thing. I really sometimes I think my wife tells me it's too affordable, but I really understand the importance of giving back. Because I have had so many people along the way who have helped me. And I would reach out to them as a young guy who didn't know where he was going with it, but knew that this person could help me in some way. And I would just reach out, offer to take them to lunch or what have you. And they would oblige me. So it's things like that I can't go to lunch with everybody, but it's again, trying to make things affordable for people, make it reachable to where people can do it, because I understand the importance of being able to give back. Right. And I see it as part of my legacy. Right. If I can help somebody to get to where they're looking to go, and I had the great fortune of interviewing Zig Ziglar, and he used to say it all the time. You can get anything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
a good principle to live by.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But you still have to eat.
Right. So, that part.
Now, don't invite me to coffee. The worst thing I hate is for someone to invite me to coffee.
Why?
First of all, I don't drink coffee.
Oh, okay.
I used to get up at 2:30 in the morning and do a radio show.
Make a mental note of that.
And I didn't drink coffee. And to me, that just says you're cheap.
Okay.
That's just me. I'm probably getting on a rant here now, but don't invite me to coffee.
Well, I love coffee, but I won't be inviting you there.
I don't need to buy me lunch either. I can buy my own lunch, but I'm just saying, don't invite me to coffee. I don't know why. That's a pet peeve of mine.
I guess probably because you're not a coffee drinker.
Yes, yeah.
If you're a coffee drinker, like when I go to Starbucks or any coffee house or whatever, I'm home. The synergy's so good. But
you're typically probably by yourself, right?
Yeah. He's like case in point. Oh my gosh.
You don't want to go to Starbucks and do it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You just went in that moment, just talking about it. You were there. You were like, oh, this is where I want to be.
I was visualizing it.
Yeah. And now you got somebody sitting across from me saying, what about this? What about this?
It's like, hold on, let me take a sip. How funny. So speak to a business entrepreneur that is, their money's funny.
Okay.
So I think, as an entrepreneur myself, everything's going great. Things are happening. You're posting. clients are coming in, but when finances, such as what happened with the COVID, virus and such, people going out of business, when that happens, and sometimes it's hard to catch your wind.
Yeah.
So any advice that you would give to that community?
First of all, what type of business? Because you can't. I'll tell you what. That's unfair to you. I'll say it this way.
Tell me what. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say look at the climate that you're in, and first of all, we have to be realistic with ourselves, and based on the climate that we're in today, it could be maybe the business model that you had prior to COVID is no longer going to work in this current climate. True. So you've got to be able to look at what other services can you provide that's going to allow you to be able to develop another income stream if you just bent on keeping this particular income stream, or it may be that you have to get rid of that one altogether and just totally refocus. And I would tell you, many times we'll do our business plan and we are married to the business plan.
Yeah.
Business plan is a great idea. I strongly recommend it. We have one for every one of our businesses, but I will tell you there are a lot of things in that business plan for Chris Howell Communication that we did back in 2013 that wouldn't apply today here in 2021. So we have to make the shift, and we have to adapt to the environment in which we're in. And I think that's going to be the first thing. Second thing is, don't spend everything you make. You've got to understand, like we said in that post, there's going to be highs and lows.
Right.
And so many times when the business is going great, we want to spend because we're thinking, oh man, I'm making some money.
Building momentum. Yeah.
You have to understand it's not going to always be that way. Every business is seasonal. So you have to understand the business that you're in. What's the highs and lows of that particular industry? Do your due diligence and find out so you can put money back for those low times. And that way you can continue to pay yourself as it gets through. You may be forced to do some layoffs. Maybe you've got some people that you brought on board with you, but in order to save your business, don't let your business totally fail because you're trying to stay loyal to a few people you brought on board. I appreciate loyalty. I'm big on loyalty, but I'm not going to be loyal to you at the sacrifice of my business because none of us are employed now.
Right.
So you may have to make some cutbacks. You may even have to do some downsizing.
Tough decisions.
Maybe you've got a vehicle that you purchased at the time, business was going great. Is it the vehicle or your business? Maybe you downsize. You know what? Maybe
you got to move back home.
You maybe have to move back home. I mean, what if your business is something that you feel like you have been called to do? Then you do what you have to do to survive it, or to maintain it, just like you would do with your marriage or any other relationship. There may be some cuts that you need to make that's going to allow you to be able to ride this out until things get better. But if you see that it's not going to get better for that business at all, cut the business. Save yourself. Cut the business. There are other gifts and talents inside of you that can allow you to be able to develop an income stream.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, I know one guy that I had, he's a coach. He mentioned before that there's no emotion in business. There's no emotion. And that really stuck out to me because, I can be a little emotional sometimes. When you got to, close doors.
Notice the difference what you said. That was a guy. Most women are a little bit more emotional than women. Yeah.
True.
But there are some women out there that
But you really have to put the emotion aside, like you said, and just make those informed decisions that are sometimes tough.
Right.
But, for me, I know personally, I just practice gratitude. It's like, okay, I'm grateful that it didn't have to happen at all. The fact that I had a business that, and so forth. So how can I pivot, and who can I connect to that can help me, continue my momentum?
Yeah.
So.
And there's so many other ways to do the business now. It could be that you were doing the business in a way that you had additional expenses that maybe you don't necessarily have to continue to have.
Right.
So that would be nice. About scaling back, maybe it's no longer having an office space. Maybe you are now operating more from a home, and then you go out and do a shared office space on an as-needed basis.
That's what I do now.
So there's so many other ways, and that's why I say it depends on what type of business someone is doing, particularly if it's a service-based business. If it's a service-based business today, man, there's really no need to have an expensive overhead. We maintain our office downtown Dallas only because there are
it's beautiful, by the way.
Well, thank you. But there are a number of clients who, when we talked about maybe going out of our office space, they were like, oh, no, I love coming to your office. We want to be able to do stuff in your office. So we said, okay, you're going to help us to maintain it.
Right.
So
for the low price of.
There you go. So thankfully, we had those level of clients, though, who wanted to do that. Okay. But to be totally honest with you, outside of that, there's no reason for us to have to be downtown Dallas on Main Street. But so I say that to only say those are things that you could cut back on.
Right.
Maybe there's other ways that you can do your business if you're really bent on the fact that that's what you've been called to do, to continue to do it. Now, if you've got a product-based business, I will tell you, my daughter, she works at Wells Fargo, full-time, but part-time. This girl's made more money online with her online clothing business throughout this pandemic than anyone else I know.
I need to connect with her.
And it's all online.
Wow.
And she does
brand new clothing or used clothing?
Swimsuits.
Okay.
She went from swimsuits to loungewear, from loungewear to what do they call it? Just casual wear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah. So there's so many online opportunities that you could do, even in addition to any other business that you have. That if your money's
supplemental income, multiple streams.
Get your 6 or 7 hours sleep, but you may have to, still stay up a little bit later sometimes than what you normally would do. But you've got to work.
So how's your schedule now? Because you said, you used to sleep.
Yeah, 8:45. My phone, my iPhone, I got it over here. My iPhone is already shut down at 8:45 to allow me to start getting.
Okay, good.
You could set your phone up to where it's off, or it puts itself in this do not disturb mode up until 6 a.m. So that allows me to start getting myself ready to shut down. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not online.
Not on social media.
I'm not receiving a text message, any of that. It's all on do not disturb. So by 9 p.m., I'm in the bed.
Wow.
Sometimes I may go till 9:30 because I'll catch the 9 p.m. newscast. 9:30, 10 o'clock, I should be off to sleep.
Wow.
And I'm up at 5 o'clock many times before the 6 a.m. alarm goes off. But it allows me to get a lot more sleep.
That's good. Yeah. Routines are so important.
I used to be the guy who would be up till midnight. And, again, when I worked on radio, I would be up until 11 o'clock at night and had to be up at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh.
But I knew I was going to get off at noon. So I was going to go home and take a nap.
Take a break.
But it still was like, man, why do it to yourself?
Stuff we do. So speak to anyone in the audience that needs your services. What would you like to say to them? How can you contribute to their life?
Okay. Anyone let me do it this way. First of all, anyone who can help us with Chris Howell Foundation, because that's what I'd like to try to, whether you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or you're looking to volunteer opportunities with us, or maybe even outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you look at our mission. It's at chrishowellfoundation.org. If you like the work that we're doing there, if there's any way you can assist us in partnering with that, we'd greatly appreciate that. We have a huge opportunity on the line. Amazon is going to give us $10,000 for this thing we're doing called North Texas Giving Day here in North Texas.
Wow.
To where if we raise they're going to match dollar for dollar up to $10,000. And we don't want to leave that money laying on the table.
Right.
Because if we only collect $500, they're only going to give us $500 of that $10,000. Wow. If we raise $10,000, they're going to give us the full $10,000.
Right.
That would be a huge shot in the arm to help us to continue the work that we're doing with the foundation in terms of that COVID-19 vaccine education that I talked about earlier.
Okay.
That's the foundation.
How can they donate? Like what?
chrishowellfoundation.org. Go to chrishowellfoundation.org. There's going to be a link there that will take you to North Texas Giving Day.
Perfect.
When you go to northtexasgivingday.org, look for the Chris Howell Foundation, and then make a donation to the Chris Howell Foundation from right there.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing. Now, in terms of for those who business owners, entrepreneurs, or aspiring speakers who may need my services, that is at chrishowellonline.com. Simply schedule a consultation. Let us be assessed where you are currently and see what your needs are. If, in fact, I can assist you with your needs, then we'll schedule the time to we'll get you a proposal, and we'll actually go ahead and get you booked and have you set up for coaching.
Awesome.
If I can't meet your needs, then what I'll do is probably refer you to a friend or someone who I feel like may be a better fit for you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's chrishowellonline.com.
Chris Howell Online. Well, we're going to talk after this because I need to go there and sign up.
I love working with you. I mean, like even this today, I'm really enjoying this.
Right.
I probably talked too much. I don't know.
No, you did perfect. You're perfect. Well, thank you guys for joining Nikki Speaks TV, the mental health series with my special guest, Chris Howell from Chris Howell Communications. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hope you guys love this week's episode on the Nikki Speaks TV mental health series show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and TikTok. And my web address is linktree/Nikki.speaks. Can't wait to see you next time.